Hey there, and thank you for joining us on Weather Out West. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz, and we have a lot to talk about today. A strong atmospheric river continues to send heavy rain to the Pacific Northwest. Our team in Seattle is tracking the impacts of the first wave and what people can expect for round two. Lanes are back open on eastbound I-90 in Washington after being closed overnight due to a mudslide. We'll have a closer look on what caused it. And deputies in Snohomish County, Washington are going door to door evacuating families as the Skykomish River rises dangerously close to homes. The latest as it could get higher with more rain on the way. And over the next 24 hours, river flooding is a big concern. We'll show you another river in Washington that is rising as we speak. And happy Tuesday to you, and welcome to Weather Out West. As I mentioned, we have a lot to talk about. If you haven't joined us before, this is an hour-long show where we tell you what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. We begin today with all eyes on the Pacific Northwest. Our team in Seattle keeping a very close eye on rivers as water levels continue to rise. They are tracking over 10 flood warnings in effect right now, with several rivers expecting a larger second crest in the coming days. Now, the Puyallup River is climbing toward flood stage as they are expecting about 2 to 5 more inches of rain across the southern portion of Puget Sound by Thursday. Rivers are going to drop a little bit today, but they're expected to come right back up once that next burst of rain moves in. A flood warning is in effect for the Puyallup River right now, which means flooding is happening or about to happen. As of last night, the river was at about 22.6 feet. Flood stage is 26.2 feet. The last time it got up near this level was back in 2006 when it hit 28.6 feet. And in Snohomish County, the Skykomish and Wallace River are causing major concerns with rising water levels. Seattle's Farah Jadrin has much more.
And anyone who lives here in the Gold Bar area or in Monroe or even Salton, you're familiar with these two bodies of water. The Wallace River, obviously much smaller than the Skykomish, but you can see that it's moving along in a little bit more calmer manner that I would describe. It was kind of rushing earlier, and that was just with light, steady rain. So as our weather team has been forecasting, another round of rain is on the way. And once that hits, the river levels will rise again. So law enforcement, fire departments, and the emergency management department up here is warning everyone about that. It seems like, oh, everything's done. There's no rain. Things have calmed down. That's the case right now, but it wasn't overnight, and that will be the case again when the rain moves in again heavily. So this is video when folks were dealing with some issues with the Skykomish River, getting to that cresting that major flood level to more than 20 feet. It was 20.3, and that's considered a major level. Fire departments had to do some rescues. A couple of campers near the Skykomish needed to be rescued by fireboat and taken to higher ground. The Gold Bar Police Department and Snohomish County Sheriff's deputies were out driving around, checking on certain neighborhoods that were at a higher risk for that imminent flooding. So if folks had some sandbags or they spoke to them and they had a plan in place, they carried on and went to check on more people. So it's really a preparation focus right now, and also looking ahead to make sure you're not easing off of your precautions just because the rain has let up. So as you can see, again, the Wallace River, it's looking pretty calm. The Skykomish River as well is another body of water where folks are going to keep an eye on. The Stillaguamish and the Skykomish are the main focuses for Snohomish County Emergency Management. But around here, May Creek and the Wallace River have brought up some water levels. We saw a little bit of remnants of water over the road, but nothing standing. And if you come across any water that's standing on the road, don't chance it and go through it. My other best piece of advice is if you do have a loved one who lives near one of these rivers that could easily rise once the rain starts up again, make sure to give them a call, text them, go check on them, and make sure they are doing okay, because this is the type of condition where you could get trapped, you could get stuck somewhere, whether it was because you're in your vehicle or because you're in your home and the river has risen to that more dangerous level. So stay with us on the King 5 Plus app and make sure to check in with us regularly when you can. And like I said, check in with your loved one.
Thanks so much, Farah. So now I'm going to take a deeper dive into the forecast for our friends in Western Washington so you know what to expect, because rain has let up a little bit as all that rain moves into Oregon, but we're not in the clear by any means just yet. So let's dive right into it. I wanted to show you some cameras around Washington. We've had some clearing, but mostly we're on the drier side, but still very cloudy. You could see atop Mount Rainier at Paradise right now, seeing some fresh snow. Even at Stevens Pass, we had some falling snow this morning, but all of that moisture is slowly peeling away from north to south. We have this low that's moving to our north, and that's essentially pushing this atmospheric river and the bulk of the moisture to our south. So here's a look at our Western Washington headlines. So most of that rain moving south this morning, but we have more heavy rain moving in later and tonight. So river flooding, gusty winds are likely. Into Wednesday, that heavy rain is going to continue, and it's going to take a little bit of time for the rain to taper off. So we're expecting more river flooding. Into Thursday, it's not going to be as rainy, but we're still going to have that river flooding likely continuing. And it's all thanks to this atmospheric river. I'm sure you've heard all about it. This one is on the strong side. It stretches from the Pacific Northwest all the way to about northwest of Hawaii, stretching about 3,000 miles over the Pacific. So just all of that moisture is being pumped into the Pacific Northwest, and it's falling fast. So what is an atmospheric river? This is not a new term by any means. An atmospheric river the term was coined back a couple of decades ago. You might know it as a pineapple express, essentially, but this is the actual scientific term. So it is actually similar to a river, but up in the sky. And so it's a large, narrow band of moisture just being pumped in from the Pacific, and it's ushering in very warm, moist air. And this is to put it into perspective. So it's a giant band of water vapor, and it moves a lot of times well inland. And as it moves over the mountains, it forces all of that moisture upward, and then we get that really, really heavy rain. And this will produce some heavy snow up in the higher elevations, but in the lower elevations, flooding and mudslides. This is something new as of a couple of years ago. You may know when it comes to tornadoes and hurricanes and then severe weather risk, we tend to have a numerical scale when we are ranking these things. And so as of recently, we now have the impact scale for an atmospheric river, and we depend on these atmospheric rivers for much of the year to bring us that rain that we need along the West Coast. And we tend to get the beneficial, weaker atmospheric rivers. But in this case, it's an AR4, so it's mostly hazardous because we don't need all of this rain all at once. And you can see all of that white indicating all of the clouds in place, that water vapor, it's moving inland. But as I mentioned, a lot of it is starting to move a little more to the south into Oregon. But watch what happens as we head into Wednesday. It moves right back up into Western Washington, and it really just does not let up until about Thursday. And so once that moisture source is cut off a little bit, then the rain will begin to subside. This is what we're expecting Tuesday and Wednesday in terms of our greatest impacts. The heavy rain, that's going to be our major concern, leading to more flooding and landslides. We have extremely saturated soils from our first round of rain, and so it's not going to take much to see some additional issues. Wind also going to be another concern, likely not as strong as before, but we're still going to have some wind moving in. And I'll show you in just a minute, but this is a product that shows us where the heaviest rain will occur for today. The yellow, that is where we have the greatest chance for the heavy rain, maybe some flooding for today. The green is lower, showing that there is the chance, but most of it, the strongest rain, the heaviest rain should be to the west and to the south of Seattle. But you see into Wednesday, that yellow, that extends all the way to the north, covering much of Western Washington. So we all have the chance for some heavy rain tomorrow as well. Wind advisory kicks in this evening, 8 p.m. through 8 p.m. Wednesday. We could have 20 to 30 mile per hour winds, sustained with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. This includes portions of the North Sound all the way down to the Chehalis River Valley, and then including the coast. So much of the greater Seattle area is included in this. We have that flood watch in place. That's the darker green. That's through Friday. And all of the lighter green you see, those are all of the flood warnings we have in place off of much of our rivers flowing off of the Cascades. And so here are some of the rivers that are currently forecast to reach major flood stage. Again, the Skagit, Snohomish, Skykomish, Tolt, White, Puyallup, Carbon, Grays, Cowlitz, Nisqually, and Nacelle. And this river forecast updates frequently, obviously, because it shows the gauges or the river gauges as of 10 o'clock this morning. And so some of the ones that already hit major flood stage are starting to recede now that we have this break, but they're forecast to crest once again, if not tomorrow, possibly some cresting again as we head into Thursday. And you see the red color, that is moderate flood stage. The fuchsia color, that's a major flood stage. So the Snoqualmie near Snoqualmie Falls, Puyallup near Ording, and then White near R Street in Auburn, Carbon near Fairfax. So this is why, because again, we're going to have more heavy rain through Thursday. On average, Puget Sound could pick up about 2 to 4 plus, up in the mountains 6 to 8 plus, because our snow levels are going to be so high. Now, rain totals will be significantly lower for where the rain shadow sets up. So timing, let's talk about that. Through this afternoon, we'll have showers starting to approach our South Sound, the South Cascades, but then it becomes widespread into this evening, overnight, and it just does not let up until late Wednesday. Some of the heavy rain will let up, you see, from about Olympia all the way down to the state line to Oregon by mid to late morning tomorrow, and then it's pretty persistent from about Seattle northward. Then it gets that push to the south once again, and eventually tapering off into our Thursday. I mentioned winds are going to pick up. This is overnight and into Wednesday from about Everett southward. They could gust 30 to 40 miles per hour, potentially peaking tomorrow afternoon, seeing some frequent gusts over 40 miles per hour. So here in Seattle and just western Washington, we are under first alert weather mode because of the next round of rain, the river flooding. And we could have that low-lying area flooding, urban flooding as well. And into the weekend, we'll have showers around at times with rain becoming likely as we head into next week. So we are going to keep a very close eye out on if you are watching this from another city and you have friends, family perhaps in the Seattle area in western Washington, reach out and make sure they know, especially if they live closer to some of the rivers. All right, so now that the rain is relaxed for now a little bit and traffic should be moving along smoothly, but that wasn't the case on I-90 earlier. And I-90 stretches from Seattle, all the way to the East Coast, but up in the mountains, we had a mudslide develop. Seattle's Drew Andre tells us about the mudslide that caused the highway to close overnight.
Well, right now things are looking okay, and I-90 is fully back open, and WashDOT says that it's safe to drive along here. But let's take you back to around 11:30 last night. That's when this mudslide happened. And essentially what took place there was a bunch of debris that just slid off of the hillside and down towards the road on the eastbound lanes of I-90. So that caused that full closure of the eastbound lanes of I-90, and what WashDOT decided to do was start that closure back at milepost 34. That's where there's the truck stop there. That way vehicles would be able to turn around if they needed to. What happened though was there was tons of trucks that just had to stick it out there overnight. A lot of commuters that had to do the same sort of thing or turn around if you were able to. And then around 5:45 this morning, that's when things opened back up heading east and cars resumed going through. Initially, WashDOT said that they were going to have to wait until it was light out to assess what the situation was, but they were able to determine it was safe to open back up, and we saw a lot of excavators and crews that were working on the side of the road, really just moving all of that dirt and debris off to the side. So right now things are looking fine, but it isn't. I think worth pointing out that this is very unusual. It's not common to see a mudslide out here. Typically by this time of year, there would be much more snowpack. Of course, around me, you can tell that there is no snow. This morning it did rain a fair amount, and that's all we've really seen.
And Seattle isn't the only one affected by this atmospheric river. We're going to head to Portland up next. Welcome back to Weather Out West. Now we're going to check in with Portland because they've issued an impact alert as heavy rain continues to just pour over Oregon and more rain is headed their way. Chris McGinnis is tracking the new round of impacts.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Chris McGinnis. We have had an absolute soaking here over the last, little better than a day here since early on Monday morning. Here's radar right now. The good news is the rainfall rates are beginning to back off a little bit across the Portland, Vancouver metro area. At one point this morning, I think in the 2 to 3 o'clock hour, PDX actually measured 0.3 of an inch of rain in 1 hour. And for much of the morning, rainfall rates were up over 0.15 to 0.2 of an inch. So it's been a soaker out there this morning. The back edge of the steady precipitation now is just coming ashore here across the North Oregon coast. So a sign that we're probably going to dial things back a little bit. But that said, our KGW weather impact alert continues today for obviously lots of standing water on the roads this morning. That is one significant impact. Also the possibility of power outages and landslides. All of that stuff is still on the table. Because as we go into this evening, tonight, and early tomorrow, another shot of heavy rain, I think, returns to our forecast area heading into this evening. And I'll show you that with Futurecast. But it's already been quite a noteworthy event. These are unofficial rainfall totals since the wee hours of Monday morning. Castle Rock in northern Cowlitz County picking up better than 5 inches of rain. Tualatin more than 3 inches of rain. PDX at the airport up and over 2.5 inches of rain. We're pretty close to that here in downtown Portland from round number 1. We still think we've got round number 2 coming our way later today. There remains a flood watch in effect through 4 o'clock on Thursday for basically everywhere shaded in green, western Washington and basically all of northwestern Oregon because, again, lots of water out there, really impressive rainfall totals in the higher terrain of the Cascades and the Coast Range. We've seen some reports, some of the observation sites in the North Oregon Coast Range up over 6 inches. I saw a report on the south side of Mount St. Helens up over 8 inches of rain. Again, the snowfall and the snow level has been really, really high. So it is raining along the high peaks of the Oregon Cascades this morning. All right, the back edge of that first atmospheric river, that fire hose, is beginning to diminish and push off to the south and east. But the next system is fast on its heels. You can see another plume here of some pretty good moisture. In fact, it almost looks like 2 distinct plumes, one here and then another one out there. And they're going to continue to target the region as we go through the day today. Another facet to this that we were dealing with yesterday was the gusty south breeze. The breeze has really lessened this morning, but as that next system comes ashore, the south breeze is going to ratchet up. In fact, this is around midnight or just after. South winds pick up maybe 20 to 30 miles an hour, which isn't a lot, but on saturated soils, that's enough to take down weakened trees on power lines. So just be aware of that. Rainfall dialing back a little bit this morning. Futurecast, though, never really shuts it off, so it keeps us going pretty wet, and then that next slug of moisture comes in late this afternoon and this evening. You will note, though, that it begins to start targeting western Washington more and more as we go into the overnight hours. And so that might be a sign that maybe the fire hose is going to push a little bit farther to the north. The model precipitation forecast seems to indicate that. Up in Cowlitz County, again, maybe the bullseye again for some heavy rain, but still residual rainfall to the tune of 0.5 inch to 1 inch, possibly more, in parts of the metro area and the Willamette Valley. So we keep the KGW weather impact alert going for today. A cool day right now, but we will warm into the upper 50s today and tomorrow. And then we slowly come out of it and assess the rivers and whatnot as we go towards the end of the work week.
And over in Idaho, they've also issued a first alert weather day. Hector Mendoza is tracking the rain that's drenching their mountains.
Well, here's what we have along the way here for today as we'll continue with the wet weather that we've been seeing since late Monday night. That continues to the majority of our Tuesday. We'll also see unseasonably mild temperatures through the rest of this week. But for places like the Magic Valley, we'll start to see a little bit more of those breezy winds and then windy conditions there in through tomorrow as we're not going to expect to see much of that precipitation make its way through the Magic Valley. So as we look at the event for today, widespread showers as as we look at the Treasure Valley and portions of the mountains. We're also expecting snow to really stick around in some of the higher peaks as snow levels start to climb up to around 8,000 feet. So everything above that will start to see some of that snow. And with more of that rain really starting to become moderate to heavy for this afternoon in places in northern Idaho, we'll start to see rising rivers and streams that are possible. So we do have flood watches in place for the panhandle here for today. So the biggest thing is making sure to plan for some extra drive time, be weather aware, and then also find us on KTVB Plus to find more up-to-date information as we will continue to monitor these conditions. But this is going to be the setup here for today. As this ridge will continue to build, we'll start to see a lot more of this precipitation start to move further north, as that jet stream is also going to move up north, and that's what's going to allow some of the drier conditions. But again, for today, we have more of milder air mass that comes in, and that's what's going to keep a lot of those warmer conditions here for today. But as we start to look at portions of the mountains, a lot more of that rain stays focused in the mountains. We'll start to see some of the lighter showers, although it'll become widespread. It's not expecting to really start to drench areas here across the Treasure Valley. And of course, as you look at the Magic Valley, not much, if any, is anticipated there through Jerome and Twin Falls. And as we look here at this upper level pattern, here is where and how this ridge starts to take shape. So as it starts to build in and through the rest of the day on Wednesday and through Thursday, that's when we're going to start to see a lot more of those showers start to make its way on out. And then we'll stick around with some of the drier conditions and clearing conditions as well, as we have a lot more sunshine coming along for Thursday and our Friday. Then as that system continues on, we'll start to see the next chance of showers come after Sunday. So because of that, we do see a chance for some of the fog really start to develop from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. And so as we look here at the 7-day forecast, we see some of these windy conditions here for today. That will continue on in through Wednesday, dying down just a little bit, staying pretty breezy there on Thursday. And although temperatures are going to start to take a downward trend into the low 50s, this is well above average. So we're going to start to see much milder temperatures really continue in through the weekend and in through next week. And that is exactly what we're expecting here, as we do have that rain that comes along here this afternoon. We'll stick around those low to mid 50s here for today across the Treasure Valley. And then those temperatures soar into the 60s as we head into tomorrow. We'll see a little bit more of that sunshine coming along for Wednesday and Thursday, a chance to see much sunnier conditions, but fog is going to come along, and that'll be a threat, as we do have an inversion that is possible to set up here through the rest of the weekend, and also seeing some of those clearing conditions. So that could keep temperatures much cooler, and that's what's going to allow a lot of that, as some of the cold air is going to stay trapped. And then again, we continue on to see those morning temperatures stick around those mid to upper 30s, and then our next chance for some rain is possible there through Monday.
Thanks, Hector. After the break, we'll round out our forecast in the PNW with Eastern Washington. Welcome back to Weather Out West. Meanwhile, over in Spokane, Washington, their strong winds are starting to die down, but like everyone else in the PNW, they are expecting more rain. Thomas Patrick has more on the weather impact alert that they've issued for today.
Meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. Going to be a busy week of weather between the wind, the warmth, and the rain. Though we start with a calmer scene over downtown Spokane, not just the Christmas tree here, but the skate ribbon looking all nice. Actually, just saw the Zamboni there a moment ago. Our weather is looking pretty warm, though, so to keep the outdoor ice nice and smooth and, well, cold enough to go is going to be a bit of some work, because these strong winds from last night, they're slowing down, but we're transporting some warm weather the whole time. More rain will be on the way tonight as temperatures stay near 50 degrees and almost in record high territory for the region. Actually, Pullman did hit a record high temperature yesterday of 55 degrees. But really, we were focused on the wind speeds, which were upwards of 50 miles per hour. Spokane led the way for Eastern Washington. 56 mile per hour winds did snap off a few tree branches, had at least one report of a tree down. It hit a fence, but it did not hit a power line, and that can often lead to power outages with windstorms like that. So that's why we monitor the damage and monitor windstorms and the like. We'll get our wind, our warmth, and our rain kind of at various moments for the rest of this week because of the atmospheric river. Huge draw of moisture, big conveyor belt and transport of that warmth and rain, and oftentimes wind through the jet stream itself, as it is aimed right at the Pacific Northwest. So as we move a bit closer towards eastern Washington, any of the rain that we'll see during the afternoon is mainly going to be in our far southern areas. Southeastern Washington, near Pullman, and even Lewiston, Idaho, towards the Tri-Cities of southern Washington. This cold front is going to stall and then move back northward as a warm front as that warm weather and that next bout of rain starts to take over. So in terms of the warmth, I mean, we are way above average. 48 is the forecast high. 35 is the average high. So we're 13 degrees above that. Look at the low temperature, 40. We are above average highs even at night. That is how warm these atmospheric rivers are in the wintertime and in December. So it is all rainfall, and even our mountains are going to see some snow melt as well. The warmest day will be tomorrow, 54 degrees. Not a record high because the record is 60 for that day. It's actually our warmest daily record high for the entire month of December. So a bit of a stretch to hit that, but it really showcases just how incredibly warm it is across the region. So you're going to see these flood watches for western Montana, North Idaho, as well as all of western Washington. They're going to get way more rain than we are, but still the same effect. Any rain and melting snow on the mountains will create some flood-prone conditions, especially along rivers and creeks and streams in this region. Kind of feeling like an early spring event when you get that snow melt. So that is what we are going to be cautious for between today and Thursday. As for tonight, the rain is here at around 7 to 8 o'clock in Spokane. It rains all night long, and then it'll be back to just scattered showers for Wednesday and Thursday proper. Not a ton of rain this week. Most of it is going to come tonight, probably about a quarter to a half an inch of rain tonight versus about 2 inches of rain or more for Seattle, as conditions stay very, very warm this week.
And when we come back, we'll have your forecast from Denver and Phoenix. Welcome back to Weather Out West on this Tuesday. We want to thank you for joining us. The PNW isn't the only area getting extreme weather. Parts of Virginia saw several inches of snow. Snow accumulation created increasingly challenging driving conditions across Chesterfield County, Virginia on Monday, with both primary and secondary roads becoming covered as the winter weather intensified. The Virginia Department of Transportation did not pre-treat roads due to wet conditions, but had crews on standby. The snow removal process prioritizes primary roads first, then moves to secondary roads within 72 hours. Chesterfield County Public Schools announced that schools will be closed Tuesday due to the weather conditions. Now we're going to go to Kathy Sabin and Katie LaSalle in Denver, where they are tracking windy conditions that have portions of Colorado under a high wind warning.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin. Gusty winds will be the rule for the next 24 hours with a high wind warning for the mountains and foothills and a high wind watch over the western suburbs of Denver. The wind is transporting in some clouds that really made for beautiful sunrise and sunset pictures over the last day or two. And our weather headlines include the chance for more mountain snow, and wow, do we need it. We don't need the wind, but this is going to be our main weather story for today. And Denver continues mild and dry this week. High pressure is building in, storm track north, gradient pretty tight with that low in the Midwest, but things start to ease. All the cold and snow basically misses Colorado, but we have a couple of weak little impulses that will travel in on the northwest flow. You're seeing the high and mid-level clouds spilling in. There's a little moisture in that cloud deck, and so a couple inches of snow possible in the northern and central mountains tonight and Wednesday and possibly even Thursday. But you get the wind increasing, and that could mean areas of blowing snow on that busy travel highway, I-70. So the winds are going to pick up today. They will peak this afternoon and evening. High wind warning out for foothill gusts to 75 and 80 miles per hour. Some of that wind will spill down to northeastern Colorado. And again, Denver's just kind of on the fringe of the worst of the wind, but elevated fire danger with the windy, warm conditions, something we're talking about in Denver November and December, which is always so weird. So here's the high wind warning out through tonight. High wind watch goes out, and that one, again, just the western suburbs of Denver, the base of the foothills, that's where we're going to see the worst of it. A little snow coming into the mountains, not enough that we have advisories for travel, but 1 to 3 inches from Steamboat, Aspen, Glenwood, across the I-70 corridor. So something to keep in mind. Temperatures today will start in the 40s, warm to the upper 50s. The string of warm, dry days continues through the end of the week, right into next weekend. No appreciable moisture for Denver through the next 5 to 7 days.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie LaSalle. Colorado, especially the mountains and foothills, bracing for extremely high winds this Tuesday, December 9th. Up into Wyoming, Colorado's northern Front Range mountains, the I-70 drive to and from the high country, areas of blowing snow and a high wind warning in effect until midnight. So with these extremely gusty winds from the west, sustained at 25 to 35 miles per hour, and gusts upwards of 75 miles per hour, down trees, power lines, power outages, strong crosswinds could cause some driving issues for high-profile vehicles, and of course, blown around objects, decor out and about. A big portion of the state under this high wind warning until midnight, areas shaded here in purple. It is just west of the Denver area, and even out to Denver International Airport, ground stops reported this morning due to high winds. And off to the west, you can see from Broomfield to Boulder, out into the mountains, areas of blowing snow, and those wind gusts have already been strong through the morning hours and will continue tonight. And unfortunately, once again for tomorrow. We also, with strong winds, more mountain snow on the way for the Park Range. The National Weather Service and the Avalanche Information Center have issued an avalanche watch in effect starting tonight through tomorrow. So with this avalanche watch, some portions of heavy snow off and on through this evening and Wednesday, along with those strong winds that impacts the Park Range. So timing will be overnight through the day tomorrow. Any backcountry travel, skiing, boarding, those out and about in that area want to avoid especially slopes over and steeper than 30 degrees. So why is this happening? We have a ridge of high pressure off to the west. It's creating some warmer, drier conditions for the west coast and portions of the western part of the state. That also will create some warmer temperatures. It's a tight pressure gradient, extremely windy along the foothills, and then of course we have some snow and cold air up over the northeast. But here for the Denver area, our average high this time of the year, 45 degrees, well above normal temperatures, and we will stay with this weather pattern through the end of the week and weekend. 60s on Thursday, that's nearly 20 degrees above normal. Breezy at times through this weekend. We won't be talking fire danger as much because we saw quite a big snow event in the mountains, but still want to be careful out and about here across Colorado on this Tuesday with those high winds remaining.
And in Phoenix, things are much calmer. No weather alerts, but Chris Dunn is tracking record highs as temperatures approach 80 by the end of the week.
From Phoenix, Arizona, I'm meteorologist Chris Dunn with a look at weather across the Grand Canyon State and surrounding areas. We're stuck in this dry, stagnant weather pattern with high pressure just off the west coast and a dry northwesterly flow across Arizona. That's bringing some cooling to the north, but a steady warm up in the cards for the Phoenix area. It's also diverting the storm track well up here to the north. So I'm sure you've heard about this atmospheric river, a trail of atmospheric moisture all the way back to north of Hawaii, slamming Washington and Oregon, but that's staying away from Arizona, being diverted well up to the north of our state. So we stay high and dry and in the 70s across the deserts, close to 80 degrees in a couple of spots. Yuma at 79, 76 degrees and totally sunny in Phoenix today on this Tuesday, 59 in Flagstaff in the high country, 56 Winslow and 65 degrees in beautiful Sedona with the Red Rocks. 65 in Phoenix at 11 a.m. And again, sunshine, 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 72. We'll reach 75 degrees by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the sunset at 5:20. That is the earliest sunset of the year. As we get closer to the winter solstice, we actually will start to see the sun go down a little bit later and later, but it comes up later and later as well. 76 degrees on this Tuesday, clear and cool overnight, a low temp of 52. Typical lows are in the mid 40s around here, so the scarf might be necessary, maybe a jacket, but short sleeve weather, certainly in the afternoons. And record heat is just around the corner. We've been talking about this for several days. Here are the forecast highs and the record highs. These are the updated numbers as of today. Forecast high for Thursday, 79, 79 on Friday. This is specifically for Phoenix. I think Flagstaff will end up just short of some daily highs. We'll be in the low 60s. 78 on Saturday, 78 on Sunday. Best chance for tying the records will be on Friday and again on Sunday. Way warm for December. How warm above the average? Well, the average high is 66. 11 to 13 degrees above average for this point in December, with highs of 79 and 79 on Thursday and Friday. And over the weekend, we're still looking at highs 12 degrees above average with this stuck high pressure ridge along the west coast. Basically, it's over California, just offshore. Things will be changing up just a little bit. So we're not going to be stuck in this for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. We do have a little wrinkle in the pattern coming up. This is Thursday afternoon. By Friday into Saturday, we'll see a little wiggle of low pressure off the coast, try to move into Southern California. And all that's going to do for Arizona's weather is bring us cloud cover. So we'll have a few extra clouds in the sky coming up over the weekend and maybe a couple of degrees of cooling as this ridge weakens just a little bit. But this low pressure center, it's of very little consequence. It's not going to bring any rain to us. For the next 7 days, all of that rain and the mountain snow stays up here in the Northwest and Northern California as Arizona stays dry. And the outlook that takes us all the way through December 23rd is for dry weather and for warmer than average temperatures all across the Southwest. Here's the Flagstaff 7-day forecast, topping out at 63 on Thursday and a dry stretch through the weekend. The Phoenix area, the Valley 7-day forecast, 77 on Wednesday, 79 degrees on Thursday and Friday.
$80 degrees in December, mid-December for that matter. Let's take you across the ocean. This morning, Japan is surveying the damage of a powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake that struck on Monday. At least 30 people are reported injured, most hit by falling objects. You see the video there. Wow. Hundreds of homes are without power, and there are reports of fires in several communities. The epicenter of the quake was just off the country's northeastern coast, but only triggered a small tsunami of about 27 inches. Smaller aftershocks are still being felt, and the strongest has been a 6.9. And coming up next, we'll take you to the Golden State and hear from Monica Woods and Vanessa Paz. Thanks so much for sticking with us on Weather Out West. Let's take you to Southern California, where they are seeing temperatures above normal as the Santa Ana winds make a return. Vanessa Paz has your forecast from San Diego.
Happy Tuesday morning. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz in San Diego, California. I hope you're all having a beautiful week so far. I know here in San Diego we are, due to sunshine prevailing as we kick off the new work week. We are looking at warm temperatures continuing to linger into our Tuesday. The good news, the heat peaks, but we are under a weather impact day, at least for the next 24 hours, all due to those very strong winds along with warm temperatures, which is going to ramp up our fire danger all the way through about Tuesday, potentially into Wednesday. The winds, they peaked yesterday. They will continue to be a little powerful into this afternoon, anywhere between 20, 25 mile per hour speeds. That easterly flow continuing all the way through tomorrow afternoon. And then those winds eventually die down, transitioning out of the west, looking ahead towards the end of the week. Now, we are unseasonably warm. We aren't set to break any daily max records. However, we are looking at daytime highs anywhere between 10 to nearly 20 degrees warmer than where we should be for this time of year. So typically, the inland as well as coastal neighborhoods should be hovering in the mid to upper 60s. After all, we are in December and we're only a couple of weeks from the winter solstice. But this afternoon, daytime highs inland are going to climb into the mid to low 80s. For neighborhoods like Vista, El Cajon, as well as Ramona, will climb into the mid to high 70s for spots like downtown San Diego as well as Chula Vista. Low 70s this afternoon for many of our mountain areas, including Palomar Mountain, and we'll be hitting highs in low 80s for spots like Borrego Springs. Although we are looking at really warm days, we do get relief when it comes to the evening hours, especially when we look at the sundown pocket starting around 4, 5, 6 p.m. or so. Overnight lows are going to go from the 70s and 80s all the way down to the 50s, and the 50s pretty widespread from the coast all the way towards the desert areas. Some of our coolest spots will be for interior parts of the county, dropping down into the mid to low 50s. Meanwhile, still a little mild overnight along the coastal areas, closer to that 60-degree mark. Now, unfortunately, we are not looking at any rain in sight for the next 7 days, which again is bad. We are in that rainy season, but the good news is at least we got above normal rainfall when we talked about last month, the month of November. As we take a look at our 5-day forecast inland, the warmth peaks Tuesday and Wednesday, and then temperatures will gradually drop with 70s rebounding by the time we get to Friday and Saturday. That ridge of high pressure is going to weaken, moving east in the coming days, and we will have a couple of storm systems. Again, we have several atmospheric rivers kind of just pounding the Pacific Northwest. We are going to get some light precipitation next week, likely confined to the northern half of the state. Unfortunately, it looks like it won't come as south for us here in San Diego, but again, it will, as far as that same system, it will be ushering in some cooler air and dropping our temperatures and also amplifying that onshore flow when we look ahead to next week. As we take a look at our 7-day coastal and inland areas, as I mentioned, the warmest days for those areas west of the mountains will be Wednesday and Thursday, but it'll be kind of the opposite for the mountains and desert areas, because as we cool down for our most populated neighborhoods along the coast and inland neighborhoods, the mountains and deserts are actually going to warm up. So we go from the low 70s to the high 70s on Friday, for example, and then even for the desert areas, we'll be in the low 80s, climbing into the mid 80s by the time we get to Thursday and Friday. We'll stay in that range all the way through the weekend, and then everyone across our microclimate feels a cool down by the start of early next week.
And as we head up I-5 to Northern California, they're seeing gray skies blanket the valley again. Monica Woods has the forecast from Sacramento.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods, and we're looking at a foggy forecast continuing in the outlook, at least for the lower elevations. Now, you get above that for the foothills and the Sierra. We've got mostly sunny skies, but those clear conditions overnight are leading to some very cold nights. Our visible satellite imagery, now this is from Monday. You can really see how that fog and the low cloudiness is hugging the lower elevations. Very little erosion throughout the day, and that's been keeping us quite cool in the forecast. That all started off on Thanksgiving week with some very chilly temperatures. In fact, last week we only hit a high of 45 degrees last Friday. That's going to be the coolest day that we've seen for an afternoon high since 2022. So that cold air is certainly making its presence known. The other side of this is some poor air quality. Now, again, this is from Monday when we really see those gunky skies build up through the afternoon. People using their wood stoves and their fireplaces, all of that particulate matter, that smoke has nowhere to go. So we start to see some unhealthy air building in the valley. And that's why many of the air quality management districts will put out alerts saying, don't use those wood burning appliances. In fact, there's restrictions in place for some parts of the valley. So no burning unless exempt for Sacramento County, no burning unless registered for San Joaquin and Stanislaus County. As we dig deeper in through the valley, there's in fact burn bans going on in some parts of the Central Valley. Most of that low cloudiness once again hugging right along I-5 and Highway 99. Difficult travel up and down the Central Valley all the way out towards the Delta and even parts of the coast. Some of that is retreating inland as we head into the afternoon, but it's rinse and repeat here in the forecast with that inversion and the low cloudiness really stuck here in the valley for the time being. Highs near 60, though, for this year under that solid ridge of high pressure and sinking warming air. 60s to almost 70 in parts of the foothills. Get down into the lower foothills where we actually are seeing some of that low cloudiness. And we're in the 40s. We're going to see that play out throughout the San Joaquin Valley. Fog in the forecast and low cloudiness. So Fresno, only a high of 47 degrees. Get up in elevation, and we're in the 50s, even into the 60s. Yosemite at 65 degrees for our Tuesday. Along the Central Coast, highs are going to be in the 60s and 70s, almost 80 degrees for San Luis Obispo. Plenty of sunshine. San Lucas at 71, Hollister at 68. Again, inland areas, struggling to get out of the 40s. Those morning lows and afternoon highs just a few degrees apart because the clouds just don't clear. 50s and 60s across the Bay Area. Head inland, we're in the 40s to right around 50 all the way through the Delta. Along the northwest coast, highs are going to be in the 50s and 60s. Inland areas, especially for the north end of the valley, still struggling to reach out of the 40s and low 50s. As you head into the parts of the upper elevations, we're in the 60s, almost 70s. So again, you really start to see how the impact of the low clouds is keeping us on the cooler side of things, with some of these temperatures just struggling to even make it out of the 40s for tomorrow through the capital region. A look at our forecast, I should say, for our Tuesday. We're going to be looking at that high pressure. Pretty stable weather conditions. Highs will be in the 50s and 60s, and we continue to see that for the foothills and for the coast. Highs are in the 50s and 60s with our extended forecast showcasing pretty much stable conditions. No rain right now.
Thanks so much, Monica. Be sure to stick around to see if where you live, you could get a special surprise in the sky tonight. And finally, before we leave for the day, we wanted to let you know if you live in the northern United States, you could get quite a treat if you look up at the night sky tonight. Scientists say some of the solar activity might make the northern lights visible again. Now, that's just a prediction and not guaranteed, but if you want to look for the aurora, check around midnight. Other times you could see the phenomena are just after sunset and before sunrise, and you'll always have a better shot to see it through your phone as well on the low light settings. States with the best chance of visible auroras include Alaska, Maine, Michigan, New York, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas. That's going to do it for us here on Weather Out West on this Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz. We want to thank you as always for being with us today, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.